Hi everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand, internal medicine physician. Is it possible to be pro-vaccine but anti-vaccine mandate? That is the question. Like most doctors out there, in fact like most people, life has been completely turned upside down over the last year and a half by COVID-19. My main area of interest as a doctor is lifestyle medicine, but over the last 18 months, COVID-19 has been quite all-consuming, both in terms of the practice of medicine and also has formed the basis of what I've spoken about most of the time in my videos. Before 2020, I barely even thought of the term anti-vax or the anti-vaccine issue. To me, this was a term which was grossly overblown in terms of how many people are truly anti-vax. As far as that goes, I think it's a minuscule number of people in the United States who are really against all vaccines. And I must say, in my training in medical school and my time since, I can probably count on one hand the number of people who have really been anti-vax. What is my attitude towards vaccines? Well, growing up, I have received all of the routine recommended vaccinations. Over the years that I've been a doctor, I've recommended all of the routine vaccinations to my patients. And frequently in my clinic, when there is no nurse available, over the last few years, I've administered countless vaccines myself, whether it's hepatitis A, whether it's tetanus, all host of vaccines that I have injected into people. So I do find it very interesting that over the last few months, some people have contacted me, including some people who are barely college graduates, who have said, Dr. Dhand, you sound like you are anti-vax. I ask these people, many of whom may be liberal arts graduates who may have done a science class last when they were in high school, how many vaccines have you administered yourself? The practice of medicine is immensely complex. It is not a bumper sticker, it is not a social media hashtag, and there is a lot of grey in medicine. There are many, many nuances. It is not a black and white field. And aside from these people who aren't even in science, I have to be honest and say that there are some physicians as well and other people who call themselves scientists who also are very primitive and tribal over this issue. You asked a question, get over there to the other side of the playground. How dare you do that? You're not on our side. This sort of thinking and discussion is detrimental to good science and medicine, yet it's going on all the time. As for the COVID-19 vaccines, since they were first released at the end of last year, I have recommended them to thousands of people, both in real life and in my videos, and I want particular focus on the high-risk groups first. I've said from the very beginning, and I'm still very concerned that in many parts of the world, which haven't even had the opportunity to be offered a COVID-19 vaccine yet, whether it's because they're elderly, whether it's because they have comorbidities like diabetes or lung disease, or whether they are obese, those are the major risk factors for severe disease. Many of these people, millions and millions all over the world, are not yet protected. Over the last couple of months, actually, I have been recommending COVID-19 boosters to some people, including some people who are in my own family. My line of thinking is this, that we don't have overwhelming evidence for boosters right now. However, I know that they received the COVID-19 vaccines earlier this year. I'm thinking of some elderly family members. They were fine with those initial vaccines. We know from the data that immunity from the vaccines wanes over time. And I couldn't in good faith let them face what I know could be a difficult winter without receiving that extra bit of protection. So they went ahead and received COVID-19 vaccine boosters. Are the COVID-19 vaccines perfect? No, they are not. Are they better than nothing at all, especially for those vulnerable groups? Yes, I believe they are. And do we have some data which is showing that they have been successful at reducing the risk of more severe illness and rates of hospitalizations? Yes, we do have some data so far on that. So that's where I am right now with COVID-19 vaccines, but I don't think any of that means that you shouldn't be asking any questions or raising any concerns. To not do that, you would not be being a good doctor or scientist if you were seeing things and not raising the right questions. So I am against people who think that you are not allowed to ask questions or raise legitimate scientific concerns. Now, hopefully that doesn't sound like an anti-vaxxer, because I certainly don't consider myself an anti-vaxxer. Yet, I could be considered an anti-vaxxer. As I alluded to in the video earlier this week, the definition of an anti-vaxxer was changed in a major US online dictionary to not only include people who are against vaccines, which would be expected, but to also include people who are against vaccine mandates. Isn't that stunning? And in the video that I showed earlier this week, Dr. Doshi was kind of saying tongue-in-cheek that that would mean that technically a lot of the world, perhaps even the majority of the world, is technically anti-vax according to the United States. Major countries like the United Kingdom, which don't mandate and have strict regulations for things like childhood vaccines, but still yet do achieve reasonably high vaccination rates. I am opposed to vaccine mandates on ethical grounds. I believe that our job as physicians is to always gently persuade, to educate, to guide people through a door. We do not coerce or force anything on anyone. If we were dealing with smallpox or the Black Death with a 50% mortality rate, then I may think differently. If we were dealing with a vaccine which was shown to be 100% effective at stopping COVID-19 or stopping transmission and help us get to zero COVID, then maybe I would think differently. But that is not the situation currently. And I can tell you that I believe there are a significant number of doctors out there. In fact, if you were to poll physicians, I think it may even be a majority that are against vaccine mandates. We can only do our best. We talk to patients, and in fact, I can think of some conversations I've had with people who are in their 50s and 60s over the last few months, and they have had risk factors like obesity, like diabetes. For you, the risks of getting COVID-19 are so much higher than any potential risks of a vaccine. And they've made their decision, and I've told them, I've looked into their eyes and I've said, look, I think you're making a mistake. Let's speak again. But that is as far as I will take it. I will not coerce or force. It has to be the patient that walks through the door. So I do believe it is very possible to be pro-vaccine in the traditional sense of the word. I think vaccines have done a lot of good for mankind over the last couple of 100 years, but I am anti-vaccine mandate, especially in this situation. I think they are counterproductive and they will only serve to fracture society. And I'm proud to go on record right now as saying this. It's a tremendous shame that according to the US dictionary, people like me are now anti-vax. Let me know what your thoughts are. Dr. Suneel Dhand, MedStroke Lifestyle Medicine. We'll speak again very soon.